Good morning, students. So today we are going to start our next topic, and that is genetically modified plants, which are popularly known as GM crops. Student, as we have learned a lot about the technique of recombinant DNA technology or genetic engineering. So with the help of this technique, we have made so many advantages in our crop plants. We have made variety of genetically modified plants. So all of these plants, they have some special properties which make them special, and we can easily differentiate these plants from the normal plants. And some of these properties I have already discussed with you, that these genetically modified plants, these are generally such type of crops which are more tolerant to different type of abiotic stresses. It may be cold, drought, saline soil, or heat conditions. They can easily survive under such type of adverse situations. And these plants, they also reduce our dependence on different type of pesticides. As I have discussed in my previous lecture, that these pesticides, they generally reduces the fertility of our soil also, and on the other hand it causes soil pollution as well as water pollution. And the third very important thing about GM crops is that they help to reduce the post harvest losses. So whenever a farmer generally grows a GM crop, then the farmer should not be bothered that how he can maintain the post harvest losses. So that should not be there with the genetically modified crops. And the fourth very important thing is that these plants, they increased the efficiency of mineral usage by the plants. That means they prevent the exhaustion of fertility of the soil, and in this way the nutrients of the soil, they maintained in the soil. And the fifth thing is they enhanced the nutritional value of our food. As we have already know about the example of golden rice, that earlier the species of rice, they contain carbohydrates only, but in the golden rice, these are such type of rice which is not giving us carbohydrate, but along with carbohydrate, it also gives us iron. Okay, student, here one picture is visible on your screen. So we have made variety of genetically modified plants. This may be GM, you can say wheat, maize, broccoli, papaya, strawberry, tomatoes. Then apple is there. Then we have a golden rice. So we have made a lot of this type of fruit and food products which are genetically modified crops. Okay, student, we are starting with a very important topic, that with the help of this recombinant DNA technology, we have made our plants pest resistant itself. So earlier, what is our method of agriculture? That in order to protect our crop plants, we generally spray variety of pesticide, insecticides or weedicides. So these different type of pesticides, though they control the pest which generally destroy our crop, but on the other hand, they are doing different adverse type of effects on soil fertility as well as increasing soil and water pollution too. So with the help of recombinant DNA technology, we have decided to make our plants transgenic plants or pest resistant plant. And for this purpose, here I am going to tell you that how we make one pest resistant cotton plant, which is popularly known as a BT cotton. So as you know the name of the bacterium, Bacillus thuringiensis. So this bacterium is generally found in the soil ecosystem. And what is the special thing about this bacterium, that this bacterium, it contains a special type of toxic chemical which it produced during a particular phase of their growth, and that is known as Bt toxin. So what we do by making use of rDNA technology, we isolate this Bt toxin gene from the bacteria, and later we insert it in our host plant and make our host plant transgenic and provide resistant to various type of insects which are generally cause a disease in our host plant. So in this way, we can easily create biopesticides. So student, these are the different type of insects which generally destroy the leaves of our plant. These may be beetle, flies, mosquitoes. Okay, students. So different type of plants are there. In the cotton plant, a cotton bollworm is the simple type of insect which is generally cause diseases, and it makes up pores in the cotton walls. Because of this, the development of the cotton is not properly takes place. So here we have selected some strains of Bacillus thuringiensis bacteria, and these strains they generally produce proteins, and these proteins it contains that toxin which is known as a Bt toxin, and that can be used to kill a variety of insects. It may be lepidopterans such as tobacco budworm, armyworm, etc. It may be coleopterans such as beetles, and it may be dipterans, that may be flies, mosquitoes, etc. So what is the important thing that this Bacillus thuringiensis, it forms protein crystals, and these protein crystals they are formed in them during a particular phase of their growth. So these crystals they have a toxic insecticidal protein, and that chemical is known as Bt toxin. So this Bt toxin protein actually it exists as an inactive prototoxin in the body of the insect, in the body of the bacterium. Okay, student. And when this insect it comes in contact with that transgenic plant, it eats the leaves of the plant, then what happens? This Bt toxin which is actually present in the bacterium, when it is inserted into the transgenic plant, then when the insect eat the leaf of this plant, then this Bt toxin it finally enters into the mouth of the insect. And as soon as it enters into the mouth of the insect, it receives alkaline pH over there. And because of the presence of that alkaline pH, the protein crystal it finally solubilizes, and the Bt toxin it comes out, and it attaches itself with the midgut wall of the epithelial cells of the mouth. So in this way, it causes pores and lysis in the midgut epithelial cells. And finally, it leads to the death of the insect. Okay, students, see how the insect it makes pores in the cotton walls, and in this way, the yield of the cotton plant it finally decreases. Yes, student. So finally, the insect it get killed. So one thing I want to discuss here with you that there are specific type of Bt toxin genes, and these can be isolated from different strains of Bacillus thuringiensis, and later we can insert them into different species of cotton, and in this way several crops of the cotton plant can be protected. So the choice of these genes it actually depends upon the crop and the target pest, that what kind of pest it causes actually a disease in that cotton plant. According to that we selected the Bt toxin gene. This means these Bt toxins they are actually the insect group specific type of genes. So this toxin it is encoded by a gene that is known as Cry gene. So Cry gene is of different types. The proteins encoded by the genes Cry1AC and Cry2AB, they generally control the cotton bollworms, and whereas the Cry1AB it generally controls the corn borers. Okay, student, here you can see the healthy cotton plant. So this is a genetically engineered type of cotton, that is a 13BT60R18. This is the type of a cotton plant which is obtained with the help of this Bacillus thuringiensis, a transgenic type of cotton. See the healthy leaves of this cotton plant and the healthy flowers also. So in this way we can make our plant transgenic plant, or we can create a biopesticide. So no need of spraying the pesticides here. A student, another very important case I want to discuss with you, and how we can create pest resistant plant with the help of a novel strategy, and that is known as RNA interference. Student, all of you know very well there is a phylum, and that is a Nemaclamins. Now it is known as Esculmins. It is a phylum of roundworm. Earlier it is known as Nematoda. So there are several types of nematodes, and they are generally parasites on many plants and animals, even on human beings too. So one of their such nematode is Melodygine incognita. So this Melodygine incognita, it generally infects the roots of the tobacco plant, and it totally destroys the roots of the tobacco plant, and as a result there is a great reduction in the yield of this tobacco plant. So what we are doing, we are here adopting a novel strategy, and that is based on the process of RNA interference. So all of you know very well that in all eukaryotic organisms, this RNA interference is actually a method of cellular defense. So what is the special thing about this method? That this method involves silencing of the messenger RNA of the pathogen with the help of a complementary double-stranded RNA that binds with that messenger RNA and prevents the translation of messenger RNA into the proteins. So as the proteins will not form because the messenger RNA is not participating. So this means the pathogen cannot survive easily in the transgenic host. So here I am going to tell you in detail about the entire process. So here we want to obtain the complementary RNAs, and that we obtain from either from transposons, which are the mobile genetic elements, or from the retroviruses, which generally contains RNA as the genetic material. So when you receive this complementary RNA, then with the help of agrobacterium vectors, you insert this nematode specific genes into your host plant. So as these nematode specific genes, they enter into the host plant, and later when it expressed in the host plant, it produces the double stranded RNA. So this double stranded RNA actually has two types of single strands. One is sense RNA strand, another is antisense RNA strand, and it remains as double stranded RNA unless any pathogen enters into the host. So whenever the pathogen it enters into the host plant, that is nematoda, then this double-stranded RNA, with the help of an enzyme known as dicer enzyme, which disintegrate this double-stranded RNA into single-stranded RNAs. And out of this single-stranded RNA, there is one such RNA which has complementary basis to the messenger RNA of the pathogen. So this complementary single-strand RNA, it finally binds with the messenger RNA and do not allow the messenger RNA to enter into the process of translation. So as a result, the silencing of the messenger RNA takes place. And after the silencing of the messenger RNA, as proteins are not formed because the process of translation cannot take place, so the pathogen, it cannot survive in the transgenic host, and finally it gets killed. So see here the picture of the healthy tobacco plants. So all of these tobacco plants, they have the healthy leaves. These are the transgenic type of tobacco plants. A student, before this, you can see this picture. These are the transgenic plant. So it has healthy root system. And this is the plant which is not transgenic. So here the nematoda, it enters, and this nematode, it forms a bond, and it start living in the roots. And in this way, it produces its essential protein and finally destroy the root system. And as a result, the yield of the tobacco plants, it goes on decreasing. Yes, student, this is all about the RNA interference technique. So after the application of biotechnology in the field of agriculture, now I am going to tell you the application of biotechnology in the field of medicine. The student, here one thing I want to discuss with you, that with the help of this recombinant DNA technology, we have done a lot in the field of healthcare. We are able to make mass production of safe and effective therapeutic drugs. So these recombinant therapeutic drugs, they do not induce any kind of unwanted immunological responses in your body, which generally happens in case of similar products when it gets inserted into your body and they are isolated from some non-human resources. So that is the big advantage of this recombinant therapeutics. A student, here I am going to tell you that how can be prepared the genetically engineered insulin. Student, you are well aware of insulin, that insulin is a protein which generally appears in your body when your body reaches the condition of extra sugar in your diet. So if you're still taking more and more sugar, in that case, this protein, insulin, it gets killed. And you are suffering from a disease condition, and that is known as a diabetes. So insulin is generally have to be given to these diabetic patients, otherwise they will not survive. So what is the early criteria which we adopted? We generally take this insulin for the treatment of diabetes earlier from the pancreas of the slaughtered cattle and pigs. But what is the important thing, that this insulin which we isolate from the animal source, when it is injected in the body of the patient, then it develops different type of allergic reactions. And the body immune system, it gets active, it shows various types of reactions towards this foreign protein. And here I want to tell you that insulin is a protein and it consists of two short polypeptide chains, and that is chain A and chain B. And both these chain A and chain B, which are polypeptide chains, they are joined with the help of disulfide bridges. Okay, students, see the diagram here. Insulin earlier exists as proinsulin, and later after undergoing a processing, it forms the two chains, that is A chain, B chain, both of them joined by disulfide bridges. And there is one extra stretch which later joined during the process of processing, and that is free C peptide chain. But this free C peptide chain, it later get disintegrated and get separated when the insulin it gets mature. So here I have shown you how the insulin, it is actually produced by the method of recombinant DNA technology. So here we select one bacterium that contains the plasmid DNA. And from this plasmid DNA, we done the cutting of this plasmid DNA with the help of restriction endonuclease. And we have also selected insulin from some human genome. And this insert is later joined with this plasmid DNA. And then this plasmid DNA, which is now known as a recombinant DNA, it is later inserted into the host animal. And in this way, when this host animal it produces its progeny cell, then our insulin, it also got its replicas, and later we obtain our desired proteins from after extraction from these host cells. So this is the entire criteria which we adopted. Okay, student, in mammals, this human insulin, it is actually stored in the form of a, you can say synthesized in the form of a prohormone, or prohormone always need processing. So before it becomes a fully mature hormone. So this hormone, it contains an extra stretch of C-peptide, I have already discussed. But when it gets mature, this C-peptide is not present in the mature insulin. So here the scientists, they face a main challenge, that how they create this insulin or assembled this insulin with the help of recombinant DNA technology. So here is again the flowchart how we synthesize the insulin that I have already discussed. Please go through them. Now in the year 1983, there is an American company, and the name of the company is Eli Lilly. So this Eli Lilly company, they prepare two DNA sequencing corresponding to chain A and chain B of the insulin, and later they introduce them in a plasmid of E. coli to produce insulin chains. So this chain A and chain B, they are produced separately, then extracted, and then combined by creating disulfide bonds, and in this way human insulin is produced. Okay, student, now I am going to discuss the very, very important topic, and that is gene therapy. So what is gene therapy? Gene therapy is actually a technique by which we can make corrections in our defective genes, or we can also replace those defective genes too. And sometimes certain genes which are very much important, and they are playing crucial role in your body, and because of certain conditions they get deleted in your body. So those genes which creates vacancy, their vacancy can be fulfilled with the technique of gene therapy, because here we insert a corrective gene in place of them. Okay, have a look into this technique in detail. So what is gene therapy? Actually, gene therapy is an experimental technique used for correcting defective genes that are responsible for disease development. The most common type of gene therapy involves inserting a normal gene to replace an abnormal gene. So there may be other approaches that are also used for this purpose. Replacing a mutated gene that cause disease with a healthy copy of the gene that should be the another inactivating or knocking out a mutated gene that is functioning improperly. That is also related with gene therapy. And introducing a new gene in the body to fight a disease, because sometimes a gene it gets deleted and a vacancy is created. So in that condition, we have to insert a new gene so that the disease which is created because of the absence of that important gene, it can be recovered or diagnosed. Yes, student, here we have more definition of gene therapy, that it is a collection of methods that allows correction of a gene defect that has been diagnosed in a child or an embryo. So here the genes, they are inserted into the person's cell and tissues and that treat the disease. So correction of the genetic defect can be done by this technology because it involves the delivery of the normal gene into the individual or the embryo to take over the function or compensate for the non-functional gene that is already present in his body. Yes, student, here I want to discuss one case study with you regarding gene therapy. That the first clinical therapy, it was done in the year 1990 to a 4-year-old girl, and that girl is suffering from adenosine deaminase deficiency, ADA deficiency. So this enzyme, it is very much crucial for our immune system to function. The disorder is caused due to deletion of the gene of adenosine deaminase. So in some children, ADA deficiency, it is generally cured by bone marrow transplantation, or in others, it can be treated by enzyme replacement therapy. So what we actually do in this process, a functional ADA is given to the patient by injection. So both of these approaches, whether it is a bone marrow transplantation or it is enzyme replacement therapy, both of these approaches, they are not curable actually. So again and again, we have to do these approaches. So as a first step, what we do, we collect the lymphocyte cells from the body of the patient. Then we grow these lymphocyte cells under in vitro conditions in laboratory on a culture media. Then we insert a functional ADA cDNA using a retroviral vector and introduce into the lymphocyte cells, and these lymphocyte cells, they are subsequently returned to the patient. So as we know that the cells of our body are not immortal and same as the lymphocytes too. So the patient, it always required periodic infusion of such genetically engineered lymphocytes. So however, if the gene it is isolated from marrow cells, producing ADA is introduced into the cells of the patient at an early embryonic stage, then it can act as a permanent cure. So if bone marrow transplantation is there, then that transplantation should be done in the embryonic stage or very early stage of the life of the patients. So that's all regarding gene therapy, students. So in my upcoming lecture, I am going to discuss about the special techniques which are used for molecular diagnosis of genetic disease. So it is also an important topic. We will discuss about it later. So that's all in today's lecture, student. Have a nice day.